Hey everyone, and welcome to this. Well, this will be the last recap in the Rose Petal case. It ended yesterday with a verdict. We had closing arguments. Closing arguments was short for the most part. The state, I feel like they they could have been half the length. They did a good thing where they went up and said, "Well, this guy just admitted to it, so let's just find him guilty. He's not allowed to do it. He believes he had a reason to do it, but that's not an excuse. You don't get to deserve who's judge, jury, and executioner, so he's guilty." But you know lawyers, and you know my hate for American lawyers is inability to do anything short. So he kept talking, kept talking, kept talking. But the gist of it was he might believe that he had a good reason to do what he did, but it's still not legal. So you have to find him guilty. He admitted to everything, and that makes him guilty as sin. The defense had. I think I've been very hard on the defense in this case. I always needed that last question every time they did cross-examination. I needed them to just ask one more question, and they never really did. But I think their closing arguments was, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10 because you have to look at what they have to play with. It's a hard case when your client has admitted, yes, I did it. So I think with what they had to play with, they did as good as they could. They went up there and said, yes, he did it, but he didn't do it with malice. Malice is a part of murder. You must determine he had malice. It's probably the best you could go with saying, well, he had no hatred towards her, even though he planned it, he didn't really plan it. But in the end, he did it, but they should say, well, some people need a little unaliving. Then we went on verdict watch, and remember, this case has been weird. It's been on a 30-minute delay, and then they changed it to 15-minute, and in the end, it wasn't on a delay. But as always, we're sitting here on verdict watch, yakety yakking, talking about whatever we can talk about just to fill some time. And I think it was an hour and 6 minutes in. We had the first jury question if the judge could explain malice. So I was thinking, oh, interesting. Some people must be kind of hung on the malice part. He didn't really have ill will and ill intent when he unalived her. That was okay, interesting. Then maybe 30 more minutes, and then they came back and what's first degree and second degree harassment, and what constitutes I can't remember the last question, but all of them was kind of where you think, they are really talking this through. They're going through each charge. It's going fast. I think it was either one of those cases where they go in, fill it out, saying, well, he's guilty as sin, he admitted it, let's get out of here, or let's really talk it through. And could it be possible, because they have heard about the CP stuff, that it was a person who needed a little unaliving? And apparently they did have those discussions in there, because the questions kind of alluded to that. Or maybe they just wanted to make 100% sure every time they find him guilty of something that they understood what it was he was charged with. In the end, after 2.5 hours, they came back with a verdict, which I believe is quite fast in a case like this. And it ended up with he was guilty on all charges except harassment in the first degree and the conspiracy to conduct harassment in the first degree. They only found him guilty in harassment in the second degree. That that's a nothing burger. He got a sentencing almost instantly because they don't do like Florida where they have 2 months where they have to put the sentencing sheet together and they have to get everyone in the courtroom. So after 15 minutes, they had given the judge the recommendation. He had been out, looked at it. Then the worst person in the world, the sister, was allowed to give a victim impact statement. I lost my mind. I said all the bad words. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to do it, but she really angered me. This lady who clearly allowed stuff to happen in her house, or she must have been blinder than a bat, stood there and talked about how hard her life has been and how sorry she was for herself and how this guy ruined her family. Well, your sister did that as well. Where were your tears for your niece? But in the end, he got his verdict. He got his sentencing. He was sentenced to 2 times life plus 5 years. If there's a parole in there, we were arguing. I was looking at it. I couldn't see an automatic parole. Jemima, who is smarter than me, said it could be with a potential of parole, but I don't know. He got 2 times life plus 5 years, which should be served consecutive. So if he can get out on parole, there's a possibility he can see the sun again. But if it's a 30-year minimum, he's going to be an old man before he gets out. One of the weirdest cases I think we've ever seen because we're not allowed to see the sidebars, the CP stuff, him admitting guilt in the middle of it, even though he didn't admit guilt, and then all these jury questions that kind of took me down a wrong path where I thought they were going to find him maybe less guilty in some things. But as always, an enjoyment to have watched it with you and the rest of the chat. I like it when we have these cases where it's not as cut and dry as we think, because it gives us a reason to discuss more. And we had a lot of good discussions during this case. But he will now be serving 2 times life plus 5 years. Thank you for watching it along with us. On to the next one.